This reading is going to be about chemistry versus compatibility. And I do have some thoughts about this myself, and I might write another article in the future about it. This came from interest generated on my article about the chemistry of being seen, which I can link to below. And so I'm going to wait to share my own personal view until the end, because I don't want to be biased or as biased in the way that I'm interpreting what we get in the reading. And often, or maybe not often, but sometimes when I'm reading for someone, I'll have my own answer to their question, but that's not how I'm serving in that moment. So I will draw cards, and what I'll get will surprise me, and what comes through is not what I necessarily would have said to them. It wouldn't have been my own advice, but that's not what it's about. So we're just going to get right into the questions and see what we learn. Our first question is, what does chemistry mean for you at this stage in your life? Oh, and also, I'm going to be doing a specific relationship reading around chemistry versus compatibility. That will be for premium members on my Substack. So if there is a specific situation that you're wondering about and you're interested in getting more guidance on that, that will be a separate reading that will be posted below. Okay, what does chemistry mean for you at this stage in your life? The Two of Cups. So chemistry means this shared mirroring. So recognizing something in another that you value about yourself. So it might not, there's different levels to how conscious this is. So, I mean, if you are attracted to somebody, that's how attraction works. There's something there that you're seeing that is a part of you. But whether or not you recognize it is dependent on how conscious you are of that dynamic and how you are, like, the way that you're relating to yourself. So if this is something you already know, then you can observe the attraction that you feel and notice what those things are. And if this is new information for you, then investigate the ways that chemistry is showing up in your experience, and like, what might that be for you? That is, are there ways that what you're attracted to in this other is something you would like to see, like you'd like to cultivate more of in yourself? So chemistry for you means the Two of Cups, this like mutual recognition. That's another, another aspect of this is that it's not just going one way. And I'm sure that, you know, we all have slightly different ways that we define chemistry, but to me, that's a big part of it, is like, I don't know why this always happens when I record. So there's a mutual recognition, like there's a shared energy there. It's not just like, it's not a one-sided thing. I think that's, to me, that has to be inherent in chemistry, because like there's no shared back and forth, there's no shared resonance, then it's not chemistry. What does compatibility mean for you right now? Okay, so we know that chemistry is like that spark, that, oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, the Two of Cups is on the bottom of the deck somehow. So that is involved here. Let's see what else came out. Compatibility for you right now means the Four of Swords, the Star, and the Two of Pentacles. Okay, I love this. The Four of Swords, you're getting to rest. So compatibility in this sense is saying, it's like a sense of ease. Like you're getting to lay down your sword and like relax into this relationship. It's something that is aligned with your values, and a sense that you've always had. And, you know, this is like, there's nuance here. But it's something that like has always been meaningful to you. And why I say there's nuances, I don't mean like, you know, like when you were a little kid, you always envisioned yourself with a certain kind of partner. And it might look significantly different than that, but there is some common, deeper spiritual thread here that is in alignment with your values. So I'm trying to think of what a good example would be, like, you know, being treasured and accepted for who you are. Your ideal for partnership might have shifted drastically from when you know, were first imagining whatever age you were when you started to think about romantic partnership. You know, you might have wanted like a prince or something, whatever example, and now that's really evolved. But what is the through line? What is the common thread that is like, maybe you still want to be treated, your perception has evolved, but there's still this core of wanting to be treated like you are just this like incredibly precious thing. And then the Two of Pentacles. So I really love this card for this because not only is there balance here, which of course is incredibly important. So it's like this idea that I've been working with lately of looking at all of the different passions in my life as fires and being able to share the warmth and kind of looking at them from a bird's eye view, as far as like making sure that I'm pouring into all of them equally. So, you know, there's the fire of like romantic attraction, or there's, you know, this chemistry, and you know, desire for partnership, and then there's the fire of creativity, and then a fire of, so I mean, these two are kind of mixed for me, but a fire of like creativity and sharing my work with the world, and then a fire of friendship and community, and one for like financial receptivity and generation. And so anytime I'm feeling especially excited about one, because, you know, it's pretty natural to go through phases where you're more excited about one particular thing than another. Like if you happen to be at the beginning of a new relationship, this is something I've also been thinking about a lot lately, is like that might feel more exciting to you than your friendships, and not because you're prioritizing it more, but you know, there's a different level of excitement, especially if there's, you know, a sexual component. And it doesn't mean that is more important to you than your friendships. But so taking whatever the highest excitement is that you're feeling for whichever one of these fires, and using it to feed the other fire, so that there's never like, it negates the risk of having like a hyperfixation. Okay, so that's, I'm trying to trace the path of how I got here. So that's part of this Two of Pentacles, this balance. Another part of thing that I really love about this card is looking at it through the lens of learning through pleasure and like enjoying your physical environment. And that is that comes from the book 78 Degrees of Wisdom, which has some really cool, it's really added to the way that I added layers to the interpretations for a lot of these different cards. It's by Rachel Pollack. She talks about, she just goes into the background of a lot of them, and many of the cards, most of them, it gave me more layers. Like there are new things that she's communicating about ways you can interpret and read into the tarot. So that's one of the things that stood out to me about the Two of Pentacles, and I really like that, because that's another thing that I'm like really ready for, and learning to feel safe in the idea of learning through like really good shit happening. Like, you know, struggle has played a role, and it's not to be diminished, but we can get to a point where it's like struggle, it comes down to our perception. And once we've built that internal safety, we can learn through challenges without there needing to be this element of struggle, because that's ultimately something that's within our control. So that's what this Two of Pentacles is saying to me. And then, like I said, we still have the Two of Cups on the bottom of the deck, which is so fun. So compatibility for you right now is including this chemistry, which makes total sense. Like compatibility, chemistry, I think, is an inherent component of compatibility if you're talking about specifically in the realm of romantic partnership. So how can you recognize when you're mistaking chemistry for compatibility? So yeah, I think that's important to bring attention to, that compatibility does include chemistry, like that energetic draw, but chemistry does not inherently include compatibility, which I assume was part of the motivation of the original question that I got to look into this topic. And how do we distinguish between which situation, which kind of situation it is. So how can you recognize when you're mistaking chemistry for compatibility? Ooh, okay. Eight of Swords and the Four of Swords. The first thing that I'm getting, I'm gonna have to sit with this, but the first thing that's popping into my head, and I'm gonna start talking, and I haven't like fleshed this out in my mind, so we'll see where it goes. But the idea that this combination of limitation, self-imposed limitation, and the Four of Swords, the resting, is like being at a standstill because of your own self-imposed limitations. How can you recognize when you're mistaking chemistry for compatibility? Yeah, it's like the contrast between the Four of Swords as like an easeful rest, dropping into a space of feeling safe, versus this position being because you're bound by the limitations that you've placed on yourself that are just coming from past experiences, past trauma, past illusions that you are bringing into the present moment, like the illusion of continuity. How can you recognize when you're mistaking chemistry for compatibility? Yeah, it's almost like like there's a sense maybe of force here and inertia rather than a gentle settling. I'm trying to see if anything else comes through for that. I don't feel like that's a very satisfying answer. Maybe this is also a sense of, oh, okay, a sense of being like a sense of attachment, like being bound to something rather than holding it lightly and trusting the flow, trusting something to develop on its own without you needing to, like micromanage it. There's also this blindfold. So like willingly looking away from some aspects of the situation. That is really interesting that the Four of Swords came up for both questions, both for compatibility and mistaking chemistry for compatibility. Yeah, and this illusion of being boxed in and tied up is the differentiating factor here. Yeah, this may also speak to like a lack of movement, maybe like a waiting energy because of your own illusions, you know, staying in place and just expecting it. This is kind of the opposite of, well, no, it is still a sense of attachment, being so attached to a certain way that you think something should play out that you're just like, well, I'm here, I'm in this little box, like this is what I'm doing, and then things like I don't need to make any movements or evolve in any way. I just need to be here standing still in my box with my blindfold on, and things will like just magically happen for me. Hopefully that makes sense. That was a really interesting pull. So how can you recognize when true compatibility is present, even if the chemistry feels subtle? How can you recognize when true compatibility is present, even if the chemistry feels subtle? The Seven of Cups. This is not, I don't know what I expected for this question. This is not what I, would ever have guessed would come out. I think this is talking about seeing things fit together. So like all of these different aspects of life just lining up, and maybe the sense that like, okay, yeah, sometimes when we have a background of trauma, of struggle, of, you know, toxic, unhealthy relationships, when things come together too easily, it can feel like there is a lack of chemistry. Like if things are smooth and healthy and respectful and drama-free, and that's not what our nervous system is used to, we can interpret that as a lack of a spark, when really that's just incredibly healthy, and what we have associated with a spark in the past has been really more of a trauma bond. Yeah, okay, that's so interesting. What role does desire play in guiding you toward growth? I love this question. And I've talked about existential kink in the past. I don't know, I guess, if I've ever actually written about it. Maybe I've just talked about it on TikTok. But it's really a really fascinating framework if you want to look into it. But it's the idea, one of the ideas is that our desires are always pulling us toward soul growth. And that doesn't mean that fulfilling those desires is what's going to cause us to grow, but pursuing them always will. So the nuance that I want to bring in here is that, you know, it's if we're going to be really extreme about this, it doesn't mean like you want something immediately, go do it. Like worst case scenario, you want somebody. It doesn't. Existential kink is not saying that, yeah, you should go do that. It is saying pursuing that desire, exploring what it says about who you're wanting to be. And it was a terrible example that I went like so dark with it, but maybe more lighthearted, like every time you want ice cream, you eat it. Like, that's not what we're saying with this, but it is saying the things that we want tell us about who we are and who we're wanting to become. And rather than suppressing our desires is never going to lead to our expansion, suppressing or ignoring them. So what role does desire play in guiding you toward growth? We have the Four of Swords again, the King of Wands, and the Ace of Cups on the bottom. So the Four of Swords here feels like kind of what I was saying about not suppressing or bypassing our desires, because it's the mental energy of swords, and it's this pause, this still point, and it's also a point of balance. The four is, very stable and steady. So it's having this sense of peace, and again, the idea of detachment is coming in. And not like an artificial forcing yourself not to care about what you want, because if that's not where you are, you can't force yourself to that place. But it is kind of like just relaxing around it, like acknowledging that you have a desire and just letting that be, not making it mean something positive or negative, but just recognizing it and being in this space of contemplation. And we have the King of Wands, which is about being in a relationship of authority and direction for your passions, your fiery energy. This is very tracks definitely with a conversation around desires. So it's the masculine structure and management of the fire of a desire. So the King of Wands is this authority to shape and structure the desires that we have, not letting them decide our choices or have too much influence over us, but using that energy and shaping it and directing it intentionally towards where we're wanting to end up and the goals that we have. And then the Ace of Cups as our heart-centered connection to divinity, to love for ourselves, for all of existence. So our desires are an opportunity for us to rest in trust and give ourselves space and awareness. They're an opportunity for us to choose our own direction, and they're also connecting us to love, to a love that's bigger than we are. What role does desire play in guiding you toward growth? Yeah, I mean, it's this balance between neutrality and space, and focused passion, direction, and staying in our heart center, and recognizing that we want the things we want because they are calling us to, our soul is calling us to what is going to grow us and expand us. How can you tell if desire is pointing you toward a lesson or a long-term partnership? This is an interesting question too. This kind of has the flavor of, I don't know, like we can't know beforehand. Again, I'm gonna wait until the card comes out to answer, because this might go in a totally different direction. But I know in my experience, like it's like I want to know beforehand to see if I can prevent pain. And like, you can't learn a lesson until you go through the experience that teaches you. There's no such thing as like avoiding growth. Like, even if somebody told you the lesson beforehand, if you hadn't gone through the situation to experience it yourself, then your understanding would be different. Okay, so we have the Six of Swords and the Eight of Cups. How can you tell if desire is pointing you toward a lesson or a long-term partnership? Yeah, what an interesting, this feels very appropriate. So first, what's coming through really strongly is that you can trust yourself. The Six of Swords is about being ferried across the water to a safe harbor. So leaving behind chaos and struggle. And the Eight of Cups is also about leaving. It's about walking away from the familiar and the known. So yeah, what's coming through for both of these, I am sorry, my cats are being so fucking squirrely right now. I don't know what's going on. What's coming through for both of these is that you're at the point where you're not being guided toward lessons any longer. And I don't mean to say that you're not continuing to grow or learn, because of course that is the human experience, but this isn't a trick. The things that you're wanting and that are calling to you now are not the universe pulling the wool over your eyes. They're not like, hey, come get this shiny thing, and then like, psych, it's time for you to be in a lot of pain and suffering because you had to learn this thing. That's not where you're at anymore. You're walking away from what has been known and familiar to you, what has felt stable emotionally. And in this context, I mean stable as in familiar, as in the known for you has been trauma and pain and not healthy. And you're being guided to this place of like peace and stability, real actual stability. Yeah, and this is a journey, a new journey for you, because that has not been, if this is resonating with you, that's not been your experience so far. What inner signals help you distinguish between attraction that's exciting versus attraction that's nourishing? This is a good question too. My first thought is, why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be both? So we'll see what comes out. The cards have a lot to say about this. Usually I try to get one or two, but we're having multiples coming out. The Four of Swords again. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Okay. We have the Three of Swords, the Four of Swords, the Ten of Cups, and the Seven of Swords. What inner signals help you distinguish between attraction that's exciting versus attraction that's nourishing? Okay, and for the sake of the question, we'll say it's not that attraction that's nourishing can't be exciting, but the intention behind this question is what's just shiny and flashy versus what is like more nourishing. So I understand that. Inner signals. So I'm focusing on these cards 2 at a time because this is a layered question and so many of them came out. What I'm getting for the 3 of Swords and the 4 of Swords is this idea that your grief cleared the way for you to be in this position of ease and rest. And maybe even that some grief happening in this healthy, nourishing attraction is not a bad sign. It's actually really positive because you are being like shepherded, like the 6 of Swords. You are having this experience of being safe and stable and at rest and having someone to co-create that, to co-regulate with you. And so it's allowing more grief to move and clear space for this 10 of Cups energy. And the 7 of Swords coming after. What inner signals help you distinguish between attraction that's exciting versus attraction that's nourishing? I feel like this 7 of Swords is saying anything other than what's nourishing is going to be pretty obvious. So the 7 of Swords is, the Thief card. But it's ironic because it's broad daylight and it's not even like, this is not a successful mastermind. This is somebody trying to sneak off in broad daylight with not even all of the swords here. And so it's not like deep shadow work, like the Moon card. This is like an obvious diversion, kind of like if your kid like takes a cookie off of the counter and they think they're being sneaky and you're not watching and you're like, I'm sitting right here, like I know that was you, and they're like, no I didn't. So yeah, it's like, again, kind of like the message from the question before. There isn't some deep not betrayal. There isn't some serious manipulation and gaslighting going on here. This is, whether this is, honestly, this could be talking about self-sabotage too, but any patterns that are coming up, whether they are appearing to originate from you or the other person in this dynamic, are not going to be very convincing. And so it's you don't need to put a lot of energy into even worrying about how to distinguish between these two things, because your grief has cleared the way and there is this ease and safety and the 10 of Cups, like this fullness, fulfillment, so much shared love and joy here that, yeah, you're not, like, nobody's getting one over on you, not your past patterns and not someone else. That just doesn't seem to be a concern. How can you follow the pull of chemistry without losing discernment? Oops. How can you follow the pull of chemistry without losing discernment? have the 10 of Pentacles and Judgment. Interesting. 10 and 20. How can you follow the pull of chemistry without losing discernment? Well, first off, you are incredibly grounded. You have this connection, this visceral, felt, lived connection, embodiment to your physical self, to your surroundings. I'm also getting that you're very grounded in nature. So part of being embodied and grounded is trusting yourself with pleasure, trusting yourself to experience something like chemistry and not getting swept away by it, and being able to receive that as part of the human experience of pleasure and enjoyment. And this Judgment card here is your higher self calling to you, leading you. Yeah, I mean, this is telling me that, again, I mean, it bears repeating. You're being called to something, you're being attracted to something because your soul has something in mind for you. And that doesn't mean, if you're watching this and have a particular connection in mind. We'll find out more about that in our next reading, but it's not to say that this is your forever person, until the end of time. But it is saying this is a step on your path that you're being divinely guided to. And that's, like I said before, that's why we're drawn to things. They have something for us. What practices can help you discern whether to pursue or release a connection? If I get the Four of Swords again, I swear to God. I never knew I could read a card so many different ways. Okay, this is really beautiful. What practices can help you discern whether to pursue or release a connection? The Fool and the Six of Pentacles. This is so perfect. So, first off, again, I feel like so much of this, and this is essentially what I was going to say at the beginning, and I will probably reiterate at the end, that you can trust yourself and you can trust life, the universe, you can trust your path. This is going into a connection not with a sense of naivete, which sometimes the Fool can indicate, but it's going in like with a fresh set of eyes, and not going in expecting this to be a repeat of the past. And this question is about discernment. So it's like your discernment is going in without the expectation that this is going to play out like your past situations have. You can go into this lightly. You can have this sense of wonder and enjoyment. And that is where the discernment comes from, because going into something jaded is not what protects you. Going in, like, being able to fully absorb and fully be present with what is giving you a much better view of reality, of what's actually happening than you would have going into something really attached to fear and being fearful about a pattern repeating. If you're in this Fool energy of expansiveness and trust, you are not only trusting the path, but you're trusting yourself. You're being present with what is, and there's nothing that can get past you if you are fully tuned into the present moment, like I said, that's where your discernment comes from. You will know. You will absolutely know. And there's also, the Fool has this, I never know what to call it, I guess staff. So this is like the wand that the magician has. It's like the pole that the boatman, the ferryman, and the Six of Swords has. And they've got this little bag over their shoulder here with a bird or an eagle on it. And these are the magician's tools. I don't know how close, I can't tell how close I am. There we go. So like the Fool has this wand of power. It has all of these tools to create anything. And they've got it just slung over their shoulder. Like they are in possession of everything they could ever need. And they are carrying that so lightly. Like it's not like a big heavy thing. They're like, I've got everything I need. I can trust myself to move forward and I'm going to enjoy it. Okay, I feel like I went off on a tangent there. Maybe not. Okay, so the Six of Pentacles here is also like so good. Exactly what we need for this question. So this is about balance and reciprocity. So this is again where your discernment comes in. You're going into this situation with a fresh set of eyes, treading lightly, absorbing everything, like with this youthful, fresh energy. And you are also watching the give and the take. You are holding in your awareness the ways that words and actions line up. And I think this is the biggest thing. If I were to speak on this just from my own personal experience, without doing a reading at all, this is one of the things that I would say is paying attention to what someone says and what they do line up. And that will get you there 100% of the time. That is your discernment again. And because you're not focused on the past, you're going in with clear eyes. You are so tuned in to the present. Nothing is going to be slipping past you. What is the wisest way for you to honor desire while protecting your well-being? This is our last question. What's the wisest way for you to honor desire while protecting your well-being? Oh. Okay, hold on. Get out of there. Jeez. Okay, we have the Three of Cups. That's why I said all, because it's nice. We have the Three of Swords. Not sure what I'm going to do with that. And the Page of Wands. What is the wisest way for you to honor desire while protecting your well-being? So the Three of Cups is about community and celebration and enjoying like physical delights. So these are your people. These are the people that you're leaning on. And so interesting that we got 2 3s here. I really feel like this is not what I would have expected, but I really feel like this is saying you can trust your people to hold you. You have support. You have celebration and love. You have people in your corner. So I think we're being asked to think about what well-being means to you. And this is a reminder that you have so much to celebrate. You have community and support, and this is your well-being. And this is what holds you even if you do experience heartbreak. So it's not about moving forward with the goal of preventing pain or sadness, because that's not a way to live fully. Honoring your desire and protecting your well-being is acknowledging that you have this support and fullness in your life, and that grief, while it's not, what we would choose in most situations, grief is a reminder of all of the love that we're connected to. And so there's a balance here. That is really, really interesting. I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but that's what I'm getting. And the Page of Wands is looking at this fire, this passion, this desire as a seed and as a student. So this reminds me of that Fool energy of moving in a way that's honoring the excitement and the newness, moving in curiosity. So there's a lot of lightness here, and reminders to not be carrying around or attached to the grief and the pain of past experiences, but to trust yourself, trust that you have come out on the other side of what you've been through with the necessary tools and discernment to move forward lightly with like a fresh new perspective. That does not mean that you're naive, but it means that you are committed to following your desires with the trust that they are calling you to more fullness and more joy, and not a trap or a trick or a lesson, but leading you to embodying more of your soul. I feel like what keeps coming through is that you can trust yourself. You can trust that you have learned and grown through what you've been through enough to allow you to release the heavier parts. And you've done that work. You've done the work of being with yourself in the descent and the darkness and the messiness and the grief. And you can trust yourself to move forward with a lightness and a freshness. And you can trust your path and the universe and your higher self to be bringing you to more love and joy and fulfillment. So I would love to know if you still have questions, if there's anything that we didn't cover in this reading that was like really weighing on you, please let me know. And next we're going to get into a specific relationship dynamic. So I'm really excited about that one, and I will see you soon.